This video is to help you with installation of the buffer tube data card. I have printed out my data for this particular rifle on the data card template, and we are going to walk through how to do this installation. There is a simple little trick that I'll show you that'll make things a little bit easier for you when you go to do the install. So I have printed out two different cards just in case I mess one up, and the very first step is going to be to cut out these two cards, or just one of them to start, so that we can get it cut to the outline of the shape that we want. I've got my buffer tube data card cut out into the shape that I want, and now what we're going to do is remove the buttstock. So we've got the stock off of the buffer tube. The next step is to clean it a little bit before we adhere the card to the tube. So I've got some alcohol, and we're just going to clean this up. Next, I'm going to use some of this blue painter's tape to help me secure the data card exactly where I want it to be. The reason that I do this is because when you go to apply your packaging tape over top, the paper of the data card will try to like cling as you go to put that packaging tape on, and you don't want to have it cling in the wrong spot. So I'm just going to take a super small little chunk of painter's tape here, real tiny. I'm going to stick the card exactly where I want it to be, so that line is in the center and looking pretty nice. Notice that up here I have like a little seam on the buffer tube. You do want to set the card back a little bit from that seam. The reason is so that you can have a nice seal between the packaging tape and the paper, so it's a little bit more waterproof. I'm not going to say that it's waterproof or anything, but maybe it'll just keep out water a little bit better for you, just in case. So next what we're going to do is we're going to take our packaging tape, and if you're like me, you've got your packaging tape open most of the time on this like partially used end. I'm going to tear that off just so we don't have any dust or anything that might have accumulated on there. And then I will pull it out a little bit more, and I am going to get it set to the length that I want. It's going to go a little bit past the buffer tube, so over on this side on the end, I'm going to pull it out a little bit farther than the buffer tube, and I'm going to cut it off at this seam up here as well. So we can get our tape cut to length. So here is my length of tape, and on the very end where the tape cutter is, you can see it's got you know, that scissored cut look, I guess. What we're going to do is we're just going to clean up that edge, just cut a nice little straight line all the way across so that it looks good. Scrap that. And now we're ready to start lining the packaging tape up. You can also see I'm trying to be real careful about not getting fingerprints inside of the packaging tape, just so it looks a little bit nicer when you put it in place. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this cut edge up with that seam on the front of the buffer tube again, so that it looks real nice. And you can see the card moved on me a little bit, but it's okay because the painter's tape below did its job and kept it in place and stopped it from clinging. And now, before I push everything down, of course, I'm going to lift this this side of the tape up, and I'm going to peel off that blue painter's tape. We'll get that out of the way. And I will do the same thing on the other side. So now we've got it stuck in place right where we need it to be, and real carefully we will brush this closed with our thumb so that we get a nice seal between the packaging tape and the buffer tube. Whoop. A little bit of a bump there, we'll fix that. Here we go. So it's kind of just like rubbing on a vinyl decal or something. We're trying to get rid of all those air bubbles and make it look real pretty. All right, there we go. We've got all the bubbles out. We've got it lined up with the front seam. Both sides are all clean, stuck down to the edge. Now the reason that I have a little bit of overhang on the packaging tape instead of stopping the tape up here is because when you go to put the stock back on, and if you move the stock in and out, you might catch the lip of the stock right here on the edge of the tape, and that'll cause, you know, your whole tape to crumple, and we don't really like that very much. So what I've done is I've run the tape all the way to the end of the buffer tube, and you can see I got a little excess there. I'm going to take a brand new razor blade just so it's nice and clean, and we are going to cut that edge off. Now we have a nice clean edge all the way around the buffer tube on the front and on the back as well. And now we can go ahead and put our stock on. There we go. So I've got my stock all the way out at the, this is actually at position 5. If I did need to reference it a little bit more, what I would have to do is kind of open this up and draw it back. On this particular card, I added a couple more positions that are normally on the regular data tube card. So because of that, I have a couple extra spaces on there. So you're not able to see the whole thing when the stock is all the way back. But I usually run in position 4 anyway, so for a quick reference, I'd only be able to see about 600 yards or so. If I draw back all the way, I can reach out to 850. And then finally, if I need a super quick reference, I would just open it up a little bit further, and now I can see to where we start to go transonic at 1050 on this particular gun. And that's it. That is the installation of the buffer tube data card on your rifle. Hope you like it.